Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Let us know if you can hear us.
Yep.
Just want to make sure everything is working.
Yeah, if you can hear us, just let us know. And then we can start ASAP.
We've got so many comments already. Didn't expect it because it was meant to be an impromptu video, live video.
Yeah, we weren't planning to do it live. We were planning to pre-film it. There's lots of questions on our Facebook group as well on emotionally unavailable men. But we want to make sure that the people who are here live get their questions answered ASAP. Those people who have already answered a question in our Facebook group, feel free to put it in the chat box live now if you want it answered ASAP. Because what we'll do is we'll answer live questions first and then we'll jump to the previous group questions. Okay, let's start. Emotionally unavailable men. So, are we starting with a question or do we want to start with an overall idea of emotionally unavailable men?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of women use this term, emotionally unavailable men. And there are many reasons why they would use that particular term. I feel like, for the most part, it's because women aren't able to get the emotional investment of the man that they use this term, emotionally unavailable.
That's right.
I feel like we need to maybe define it a little bit better.
Okay.
So rather than, when you use the term emotionally unavailable, you're kind of pointing the finger.
Okay.
You're saying that's your characteristic,
Yeah.
that's you.
I guess it's no different to men saying a woman is sexually cold or what's
Sexually unavailable?
that term? Frigid, or sexually unavailable.
So yeah, I would say, and this is something that we were talking about before this, maybe the equal and equivalent, the equal and opposite in a man's
World.
situation would be a woman who is sexually unavailable. And that's not to say that a woman doesn't want sex or enjoy sex. It's just that that's his perception. And maybe he's not able to inspire that from the woman.
Yeah.
So therefore, he feels like it's her fault.
That's right.
So I think we need to...
Whereas from a woman's perspective, it might be like, well, why should I be sexually available to you? Like,
Exactly.
what does it mean
Exactly.
to me kind of thing?
So we have to address the fact that for the most part, perhaps other than a very small percentage of psychopath, like actual psychopaths, Ted Bundy, etc. Most men...
Hey, he had a girlfriend and a kid.
Yeah,
Or what?
we'll look into that one. For the most part, men have the capacity to be emotionally available and to invest their emotions in a woman. They have that capacity.
Correct.
Let's just make sure that we understand this, okay?
Yes.
So it's not that they're emotionally unavailable as much as they are emotionally unavailable to you.
Yes.
That is the topic, the problem that we want to address, rather than, if you just pointed at the other person and said, oh, you're emotionally unavailable, we can't fix that. We can't fix them. We can't control them, right?
You can influence them. I believe you can influence them, but it really depends on the situation. It depends why he's emotionally unavailable, their history together, where he's at. It's possible to get an emotionally unavailable man to open up. That is possible.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of discussion around that.
Absolutely,
and so
there is.
it's very nuanced. And
So I think it's important for us to maybe change some of the language around this topic rather than saying he's emotionally unavailable, but rather use words and phrases or sentences that put the control back in your hands. Like, how do I allow him or inspire him to invest more of his emotions in me? How do I connect deeper with him so that he is naturally more able to put more of his emotional resources in us rather than away somewhere else?
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think? I think that's a really, really important thing, because the more if you ask bad questions, why is he emotionally unavailable? You're going to get bad answers. You're going to get surface answers. If you start asking better questions, you're going to come up with better solutions. And for the most part, men just don't want to expand their emotional resources because that is precious to them.
Yeah.
It comes with a huge opportunity cost, right? So they're not just going to dish it out for every woman that they meet.
Yeah.
Okay, and as we've always said, it's not that men don't like commitment. It's not that men even fear commitment. Men fear committing to the wrong woman.
Yes, and so we're going to focus on giving the power back to you instead of so much focus on pointing
What's wrong
the
with
finger,
him?
saying he's not doing this. Because when you focus on what he's not doing, you can't meet him where he's at. And if you can't meet him where he's at, that will spell trouble. It just creates disconnects. So,
Absolutely.
okay. So did you want to go?
We have a lot of questions already.
Okay, let's start with the very first question. Emily Hong. If a man is only looking for casual relationships and does not know what he wants, is it a sign that he's emotionally immature and unavailable?
That's a good question, Emily.
Thanks,
So
Renee.
here is the thing. Let me preface that question with the fact that when we first got together, I didn't want a relationship.
Hang
It's
on,
true.
was that before me?
Oh yeah, before I met.
Or
Yeah, it was
after?
before. Like I wasn't looking for one. I wasn't out there looking.
No.
And as a man, as we teach a lot, as a man, our center of gravity doesn't revolve around relationships. It just doesn't. You know, think about it from a
Does
man's
it revolve
perspective.
around emotionally committed relationships
Yeah.
with women, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with females, often our world revolves around creating that connection and getting that commitment and creating a family unit and
Because that's important. Because
that sense of fullness, emotional fullness in our life.
that's absolutely important as a woman. As a man, I don't bear the kids. I don't have to go through pregnancy. I don't have to breastfeed or be so vulnerable in that sense. So for me, intuitively, I don't need that close connection. I don't need someone to look out for me. I don't need someone to protect me. I don't
Are
need
you
someone.
sure?
I don't need someone to go out there and get the food whilst I'm breastfeeding because I can't leave the bed. So, from a man's point of view, of course, for most men, they are not going to know what they want. They are just reacting to the energy of the woman in front of them. That's all men
Yeah, it's like
really do.
they're existing in this.
In fact, if a man, and this is from a man's perspective, if a man straight out said, I want a relationship, that's a red flag. I would really watch out for
It's a
those
serious
cases.
issue.
Yeah. He's either extremely low value in trying to cling on to every little thing he could, or he's a scammer.
Yeah, absolutely. I've written about this recently.
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
screenshots from our group on this. 6 burning signs he doesn't want a relationship with you.
Yeah.
I just wrote about that.
So for most men, yeah, they're not going to know what they want. It's not a sign of immaturity as such, as it is a sign of them operating from their masculine perspective. They, just like women. Okay, so the equal and equivalent perspective from a woman's point of view would be, why would you want to, like, something to do with casual sex? Like, why? How would I phrase this? A woman wants a long-term relationship for the most part. That's what they're driven towards. Where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I was thinking about the next point. No, I missed.
But the equal. So what I was trying to say was this: men by default wouldn't know what they're after from a relationship point of view. Men basically prefer things casual by default.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
less energy expenditure, less investment. If you switch the table, if you said, okay, if you asked the woman, what do you want in the bedroom? It's such a
Well, my instant response is that why don't you show me what I want?
exactly.
Just like, why don't you,
It's
I'll know what I want when you inspire it in me.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. So
To give the direction to a man is a kind of turn off anyway. In the right scenario, you can give direction to a man in the bedroom. That's great. But if you're just dating, it's more like, well, you show me what I want.
Exactly. So I guess that's the point I was trying to make. Men just won't know because it's not their center of gravity. They don't speak in the language of relationships.
Correct.
And because of that, I think I think, useless to expect a man to want a relationship. Rather, you have to inspire it.
Yeah.
And you inspire it through, okay, two things that drive the commitment process: emotional attraction, emotional connection. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
If he didn't have those two factors, chances are nothing is going to inspire him, compel him to want to go further, take you seriously. Because at the end of the day, that is what relationship is all about: emotional connection, emotional attraction. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. So if you can just drop everything else and focus on those two factors, absolutely key. I think, have we answered
No,
it?
I had an answer too, but
Yeah,
you've
go ahead.
You've answered it perfectly.
We answer it in different ways.
No, yes, very different ways. But I don't want to keep people waiting too long. Yeah.
That's all right. I mean, I think we address many questions in one go.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people have the same kind of questions, and these questions are great because these are questions that involve the differences between the masculine and the feminine perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, when someone says, "Is a man who just wants casual relationships immature?" I kind of think of, okay, a man going for casual relationships. For me, that means he's not committing to any one woman. So he's going around tasting different women, so to speak, different flavors, different types of women. On the other side of the coin, let's imagine a woman who likes to go shopping. She likes to buy different skirts, not just say a pink skirt, but she wants a black skirt. She wants a leather skirt, and she wants a blue silk skirt. They're all different. She wants to feel and experience wearing and buying these, or even feeling these different materials and skirts. But does that mean she's immature? From a man's perspective, if you've been on my side of in my line of work, I've heard from men and women. I've heard from men many times, "Oh my God, why is she spending all the money? She's got this skirt, she's got that skirt, can't she just stop," kind of thing. Well, is she immature? From one perspective, yes, because she could technically spend her money in better ways. But that's a very objective viewpoint. Is a man immature if he's going around tasting different women? From one perspective, yes, because he probably hasn't learned and understood that there's a massive cost to doing that. Not just for the women, but it creates a massive mess for him as well. And I mean, I don't believe casual sex is good for men or women, generally speaking, but that's a whole other discussion. So, yes, from the perspective David answered from, no, it's not immature. It's just their preference. It's just their default way of operating for men to have casual relationships. So, yeah, I hope that explained.
I could say, with the same token, that a man could also ask, is it immature for a woman to ask for a relationship, knowing that that's from the place of them not understanding the masculine perspective, if that makes sense. So
the masculine or the feminine?
As in the woman not understanding the masculine, so therefore asking for a relationship. Is that from a place of immaturity?
Yeah, see, I'm thinking...
Because that is value taking, in essence.
Yeah, see, I'm like, how can that be immature?
Exactly.
That's like so mature.
So
that's like the ultimate thing.
So rather than looking at mature versus immaturity, let's look at value extraction versus value adding. You can go into a situation trying to extract the value by saying, hey, I'm here and I want a relationship. That is value extracting. You're asking for something, some value. Okay. And that's not necessarily the same kind of value to a man as it is to you. It's the same as a man saying, hey, can I have some sex? It's not the same value to you as it is to him. So it's value extracting. If you can understand the differences, then you can bridge that gap and you can still get what you want, but you do it in a value adding way. You can have everything you want as long as you go about it in a value adding way. And same for men as well. So that is the critical distinction that I want you to understand. It's not... I don't like this maturity versus immaturity thing. Again, that is putting the onus on the other person, on the man, saying, hey, look at you, you're not mature enough, etc., etc. Whereas if you took the lead in terms of understanding the masculine perspective, you can get a completely different result by leading with value.
Correct. Let's move on to the next question.
Sure.
Okay, so someone says, he was married 3 times before and says he failed. Now he doesn't believe in marriage. Have we heard that so many times before? He doesn't even want to try to live with me, but claims he loves me more than anyone ever. He's hot and cold. what to do. First of all, what men say, I think you should put aside anything he says and look at his actions. That's the first point I wanted to make. With regards to the hot and cold factor.
Married 3 times. Yeah, I guess you would be somewhat jaded to some extent. I mean, 3 times, that's quite a few.
Yeah, and it also, Anjavan, it depends whether he initiated the divorces or not. Usually men don't. Usually, in the vast majority of cases, it's women initiating divorces. So if he's been divorced from 3 times before, you would really have to consider his position, where he's at, what he's been through, the way the women have treated him, and not only that, but consider the patterns of the types of marriages he got into. Was he with women who constantly took value, controlling women who didn't understand him? Was he with women who, you know, he never should have gotten married to in the first place? It was kind of just, he got married for the wrong reasons, out of obligation maybe, or obligation.
And she followed up saying she does everything for him. Just on that note as well.
Yeah.
If you do everything for him, then my question for you is, what's in it for you? And there's always some kind of payoff, side payoff, that we get when we get ourselves into these types of situations. We're going to look at what's in it for us, and there's always something. There's always something that we're getting, whether that's security or sense of validation, approval, etc. You have to address that first, because you got yourself into this situation in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm sure to some extent you are trying to trade his approval, validation, love by doing everything for him.
Yeah.
That's what we need to address.
Yeah, and it also matters how far you're willing to go emotionally. How emotionally available are you, and how comfortable are you in this state of limbo where you know he's not emotionally committing, but you're just tolerating it for something cheap. As a woman, it's very important to be able to kind of feel into the depth of what you actually need from him emotionally, and feel how far he's willing to come, and if he's willing to come at all. A lot of the times when we do that as women, we find an answer that we don't like, and so we kind of suck it up, put it aside, and fumble around instead in the relationship, wasting time and distracting ourselves. So it's really up to you to decide, hey, this is not enough. I don't want it. I need something deeper. Am I afraid of asking for that? Am I afraid of feeling how deeply I need a man? Because if you did feel that, and you felt that he wasn't able to be there for you, you may show up in an entirely different way. You may actually not want to be there. You may walk away and leave the relationship, have different boundaries, and then you would be showing up differently, and that would cause him to show up differently, or even disappear altogether, which in my mind is a good thing, but in your mind right now, maybe not so much, because you're already invested. So it's interesting, because what you're describing is a form of investment, that trade.
Yeah, you're trading something.
Yeah.
There's always that payoff that's not always obvious on the surface. Whenever someone says, I do everything for someone else, or I give them everything, well, you're getting something in return. Yeah.
Or you're wanting something in return. Yeah. You need so much in return.
Exactly. Still, you're trying to take value, and you're not giving him the things that he really need, whatever that is. You're just giving him what you think is value.
Yeah. So did we want to see what?
Yeah.
Anything else? What did she say? She said something that wouldn't work. Oh, she was talking to Ruben. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So.
Jamie,
yeah, I have no idea where we are. So if you've got a question.
Okay. Hello, Jamie. Question: where is a safe line drawn between our man being cold or unreceptive to us women as emotional beings, and us expecting too much from them emotionally? What does a healthy exchange look like between both sexes when a woman is expressing her emotional needs to a man, and when does it become needy or clingy, and when are there justifiable concerns as to a man's own behavior in response to a woman's emotions. Thank you both so much. So at the end of the day, the line is a fluid thing. It always changes. But know that the more value you add to the relationship, the less there is going to be that line altogether. The more you're able to add value in a way that is perceived as value, not just value to you, but perceived as value to the opposite sex. And that's one of the hardest things, I think, to do.
Of course.
Because you have to really understand that they are not like you. If you can add that much value, ultimately what that is going to do is you're going to see and feel the reciprocation of value. You're going to see that. And that is to affirm to yourself that, yes, you are adding value. Okay. Sometimes when you add value to the other person, it may not feel like it's value because it's not value to you, but it is value to them.
Yeah.
That is one of the hardest things to understand because
Yes.
we all feel like, and you know, there are sayings like treat other people the way you want to be treated,
Yes.
etc.
Yes. Yeah, that's
And that-
confusing, isn't it, in
that-
that context?
That is good in most contexts, but in the context of an intimate relationship where the other person is not like you, and for good reasons, otherwise you may not be together, otherwise you may not have polarity. Well, you have to understand them first and understand what value is to them and really associate with what value is to them. Not just understand it intellectually, but really put yourself in their shoes and go, oh, I get it. I get it. And then from that place, as you add value, you're going to feel better about yourself because you know, yes, you get good feedback and they reciprocate and you go, oh, I see how value is different to different people now.
Yeah.
Rather than begrudgingly doing something that you don't want to do in hope that that's adding value because that's not going to work long term.
Yeah.
So in terms of the line that you talk about,
You're going to cross the line as it is with a man at some point, just like he's going to cross it with you. That's how a relationship, an emotionally committed relationship, has to evolve. It has to go through those phases of, holy shit, she's so needy, you know?
yeah,
And then you be like, oh geez, okay,
It's-
right. And I mean, I remember early on, like, I still remember it to this day, and this was like more than 12 years ago. We had a fight. This is not long after we moved out together as a couple, and the fight was late at night, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember what he said.
what did I say?
You said, Jesus, is it that you want me with you all the time? And I said, I didn't say anything. I was so emotional, but at the time I was like, yeah, no, maybe, no, I don't know, you know? And so, but I've always remembered that. And so the point of me telling you this story is that I remember it because I attach emotion to it. It means something to me because I don't want to overstep his boundaries too much. That's just human nature. We don't want to be leeches sucking too much if we're normal human beings, reasonable human beings. And so from there, I was able to calibrate. I was able to adjust, and I know now what not to do. I can feel it better because I've gone that far, and he's given me that feedback that I was being needy, basically.
Yeah.
And vice versa. We've had other different experiences where you might have been taking something from me.
Yeah, I'm sure I have.
You know, and so he's learned, and we've fallen into this beautiful state of knowing and being responsible to each other now.
Yeah, it's not about crossing boundaries anymore.
Yeah.
It's you understand so deeply the other person that when you need something, some form of value from them, it's okay to overstep that boundary because you give so much. There's no boundary there, and they understand you. So it's not as I guess value taking.
Yeah.
Because you've built that bridge, built that mutual understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that takes, I'm sure, years to get to.
Yes. So overall point is that don't be too afraid of becoming too needy because those mistakes have to be made in any good relationship. But at the same time, you don't want to be a pathological value extractor. where you are so insensitive to how you're making someone else feel that you couldn't care less. As long as they're there for you and do whatever that you want them to do, you're cool. You don't want to be like that. That's a recipe for loneliness and suffering. And I doubt you're like that, but I just wanted to say that.
Stay attuned at the end of the day. Stay attuned to the other person. And know, be aware of when you're taking value and adding value.
Yeah.
Be aware, look back and just reflect and see every step along the way. Okay, was I taking value? Was I adding value? And really make mental notes of that. Because ultimately, it's if you don't focus on value, the exchange of value, then you may miss all the times that you take value. Accidentally, inadvertently, consciously, subconsciously.
That's right.
And what ends up happening is that you take away from this relationship bank, you take away from the connection that you have together, and eventually it'll run out, it'll run empty, and you go, oh, what happened? Or what happened was that you kept taking, right? So you have to be aware of when you're adding value and the ability to add value.
Yeah, that's right.
And that will give you plenty of surplus in terms of attraction and connection that you can draw upon when you need it.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
That's right.
Then you won't need to know where the line is.
And you're not taking from an empty bank kind of
This
thing.
is not a business relationship where I'll trade you this, you give me that, and there's that line in the sand where that's where the trade is done. Not at all. It's not a trade. In fact, you don't want your intimate relationship to be a trade, right? That would,
of course.
it just doesn't feel that good.
No. Yeah. And it wouldn't be good for raising children either.
It wouldn't be
That's
good for a lot of things.
Yeah. Okay, so I struggle with these because the chats because
I know there's quite a few.
Yeah.
Jamie says she's been waiting 45 minutes for this.
I know. Great advice, David. Okay. Wind and Stott Sukai. Do you see that?
Yep. Girl, it's a juicy story, but I mean, everyone thinks their own story is juicy. It's probably just the same old. Sometimes I get really frustrated with men who are fucking around and then want to chase me and date me. And I'm like, ew, no. And they don't see why I am low-key turned off, because for them, they're like, hey, I'm just getting my needs met. She wants it too.
That's
I don't regret
She wants it too. Really?
I don't regret having sex with a good girl. I just don't want to commit to her. What's the problem? Excuse me.
Bless you. Why are we suddenly talking about
Is there a question?
having sex with a girl?
This is what the guy was saying.
Oh, okay, right. All right. Well, maybe it's just a conversation then. Do you want to move
Yeah,
down?
I can't see your question, unfortunately. So
Okay, Vivian Hanai has one. Hi,
Alright.
Vivian. Okay, so how do we know if what we did is valuable through their feedback, aka responding to you?
it's a good question.
Well, yeah, it's hard if someone isn't very expressive or highly responsive, but I think for everyone, there's always that sweet spot. There's always that one thing or two things that you can give to them that completely lights them up like a Christmas tree.
I think this is an art. It's different for everyone, and it's an art and a skill that you have to hone. And what I would suggest is for you to go out there, speak to as many people, different people as you can, to just see what lights them up. What is that common thread? What is unique to them? And when you have that practice, when you go out there and really connect, wanting to connect with different people, you'll get better at this skill of seeing what lights them up. This is, you can't bypass this stage, because at the end of the day, we're all different human beings, and we have different, just mindset, goals, ideas, beliefs, and what we focus on. So you need to go out there and go, build that skill of being able to connect with anyone. Then from that place, you'll feel more confident in knowing how to add value to individual people.
Yes, and I would also add the point that for women, a great starting point is to understand men. We've both got an article on 5 things to understand about men. They're totally different things. Again, different perspectives. He's a guy, I'm a woman. different things. Read them. They're on thefemininewoman.com and commitmenttriggers.com. When you go into the territory of understanding men, you create for yourself access to superpowers in a way as a woman, because you learn what you get a head start in learning what is valued to them. So although not every man is going to be the same, you go into it with on better footing, and you can test the right things to begin with.
There are a lot of common threads in the masculine perspective. There are a lot of very common perspectives when you see it from the masculine versus the feminine.
Yeah.
So you want to understand those common threads first.
Yes.
And from that place, from that foundation, then you can look at individuals and go, oh, this man likes fishing, this man likes to go to the gym, and you can understand why, the reasons why they do what they do from the framework of the masculine perspective. This is the whole reason why we put together Understanding Men. I mean, it's a huge course. It's like
exactly.
It's a 14-day course. It's a huge program, but that gives you the foundations of understanding how the masculine perspective is so drastically different to the way you might think, and so critical.
Exactly, and it's a learning curve for women as well. Like for women, and this is specifically for women who are in a relationship. This example, when you get into a relationship, for a lot of women, they like to sit and talk. They like to bond and verbally exchange conversations. And that feels normal and natural to us. That's where we go. That's how we nurture. That's how we connect. That's value to us. But for a man, again, only in a relationship. I'm not encouraging casual sex or casual blowjobs or anything like that. But for a man, perhaps something like a blowjob would be the ultimate value. Whereas sitting down and having the discussion or a talk, or talking about what you want to talk about, may only meet his needs -1 out of 10. I don't know. You rate it.
Yeah. Look,
it depends how happy it makes the woman and how invested he is in the woman.
Yeah, it does. But talking, I was just saying to Renee just before this live that I think studies show that women use like 10,000 words a day, and men on average use about 3,000. So there's a huge discrepancy there. And I'm like, yeah, of course. If it wasn't for her, I would probably use like 100 words a day. I'll just grunt all day. I don't need to talk.
That's what our 7-year-old son does.
Exactly.
And I have to constantly tell.
Exactly, because as long as you get the job done, why speak more words than less? to quote.
And isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Just sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So, distinctions like this, understandings like this, will give you a head start, Vivian, in terms of what they perceive value in. So, yeah. And I mean, you may not always want to give what they need or want. That's okay. You don't have to be ready.
You have the
choice. But you understand, and you have the choice.
You have the choice, and you have the capability.
And you have greater attunement by learning to understand them.
Capability of doing so. So critical.
Yeah.
So you can turn it on, turn it off whenever you wish. Okay, Becky says his coffee mug is the whole pot. Absolutely. Next time
mine's better. Check what mine says. Where do I hold this? It says, vulnerability is my superpower.
Very nice. Next time I'll use a stock pot. How's that?
You would probably finish it.
I probably would. This is almost done.
This is how hard talking is for David.
It is.
Case in point.
It is. I need to drink.
Your mouth gets dry when you film videos for long enough.
Anytime we get into a discussion, okay, stop, hold on, I've got to get myself a cup of tea. This is going to take a while. Okay. Kitty, what do you do when your husband is so involved with his gaming and online friends that you are ignored?
You answer.
We can't smash his consoles.
Not the answer I was expecting.
Okay, no, I'm kidding. Okay, so number one, you have to emotionally express how it feels to you.
Yeah.
Chances are he doesn't know in his body, in his nervous system, how it makes you feel. He may think that, oh, you're just like a guy. It's cool to play games. Great.
Yeah.
No problems. That's what he's probably thinking. So unless and until you give him that emotional awareness in whichever way you choose to do so, then he's going to be, he's not going to know. He's going to be under the perception that, oh yeah, you know, I'm being self-sufficient. That's a good thing. It's true.
Very interesting. Yeah.
It's true. So allow him the gift of knowing deeply how you feel, not just by words, but how you feel, with sound, with tears, with whatever it takes to get him to know that feeling, not by words, but the feeling, right? That's critical. Until he goes, oh, right, okay, I see how this habit is making her feel on a visceral level. Once you can do that, then my bet is he's going to take you a bit more seriously, and he's going to consider you when he's making those decisions of playing games online.
Yeah, there you go.
But most men would just not know how it makes you feel. Period. At the end of the day, if, you know, put it this way, if my boys, and they're only young right now, but if they were older and they were playing games all day long, great. One less thing off my plate. Let them be independent. Let them do what they want, because then I can do my own thing. That's probably what he's thinking. Right.
What?
He's not thinking from a perspective of, oh, she's a woman. She needs my attention.
Yeah.
She needs, you know, to talk to me. She needs to connect. She needs to communicate. Because men don't do that. They're not the
But
same.
you wouldn't tolerate them playing with video games a lot, though.
No, I wouldn't want them to. But there's a part of me that goes, okay, great. Now I can do some of my own things.
Because they're occupied, that masculine, that need for a challenge to conquer is being occupied.
Correct.
You know that they're fulfilled.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let him feel what you feel.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Kat says, I likely use way more words than 10,000. You and me both, Kat. Especially since I am a speech therapist. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can imagine. Do you want to skip to the group? Group questions?
Gosh, we have so many comments. I
Yeah,
can't
but-
even go through them all.
Okay, do you want to go to the group? There's clear-cut questions there that
Are
will
there?
answer. Yes.
Okay. Go to the group.
Okay. Do
I'll
you
see if I can find any here.
alumni? You go to alumni. I'll go to the
Oh, no.
general one.
You go get them.
What?
You find the questions.
Okay.
I'll scroll through the chat because there's so many.
Yep, sure. You fine.
Okay, he was invested but couldn't commit, so I told him we can't date anymore. He still talks to me frequently and rushes to help me when I need. He told me he still doesn't know what he wants and distant. At the end of the day, should I give up on him? That's the question. At the end of the day, think about this from a perspective of emotional attraction, emotional connection. If there isn't enough there, he may just hang around because he's got no better place to go. But if there's no emotional connection, emotional attraction, then there's no real relationship, right? So it's not so much about giving up on him. It's about, okay, you need to do the best for yourself first. Okay, I think it's wise for a lot of women to go out there and just speak to more people and just connect more with people and realize that you have the ability, the capacity, the skill to connect with lots of different people and add value to lots of different people. And from that place of abundance, you may have a different question. You may not wonder whether you should give up on this person or not. You may already know what to do, right?
Yeah, very smart.
So give yourself that abundance first by going out there, learning the skills of being able to connect with people. This is the whole reason why we have things like Attraction Pebbles. This is the whole reason why.
It's a program.
It's a program.
Attraction
This is
Pebbles.
the whole reason why we have High Value Banter. It's a free class.
Yeah.
These we've put all this together so that you can have the skill, go out there and practice the skill so that you will feel abundant. And from that place of abundance, everything changes. Okay, Estella, everyone is you pushed out. Revision I don't follow. Okay, I'm going to move on.
Okay.
She asked, if a man or woman married only for money, social status, is that very low value in both?
It's not up to us to
Yeah,
say it's a low value or
exactly.
not.
We're not here to judge.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? You got to do the best decision for yourself. And I can understand and appreciate that sometime in the history of mankind, that sometimes you had to do that in order to survive. And if you didn't do it, you didn't survive, and you wouldn't have passed on your genes. So I can appreciate that there is value in it. So it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. You know, everything is a risk, and you have to understand your environment, your context, and what risks you are willing to take.
Yes, and also this is actually a good topic because I think, you know, there was a time where I got attacked a lot because I was talking about women dating for resources versus women dating for true love, and women, you know, are arguing that you can't, you know, it doesn't exist. This dating for true love thing, you need, you know, you need.
That's fuel for MGTOW right there.
Sorry. MGTOW is the men going their own way.
They would love to hear that.
Their own way without women, in other words. Anyway, so just for the record, I am not against women marrying for money, but I am wanting to point out that if you do marry for money, it will come at a cost for other things. So don't assume that just because you marry a rich man, your kids will be raised well. There is plenty of kids, rich kids, who commit suicide. There's a story from way back in, I think, in the 1920s where there were super, super rich kids. I think they were in the line of the Jewish, the Rockefellers there. They were serial killers.
Right.
Yeah, they turned out to be serial killers. It doesn't matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
That's not going to raise your kids. It's not going to emotionally fulfill you. So, is it low value? I don't care what it is. You know, I don't care if it's low value or not. But if you're going to marry for money, know that you're sacrificing other things. So, in my world, the ideal is that you marry knowing that the deepest well of resources comes from your connection with the man. Because it's that connection that's going to help you solve life's problems, including money. It's that connection that's going to give you the resources to raise your children when it's hard. And everything else great comes from that deep well of the connection, the emotional connection that you have. So yes, marry for money if you need to. Some people do. They're just in that scenario. I wouldn't make them wrong for it. But again, whenever we make our choices, we have to know that there's a cost and a benefit. And the more aware we can be of the cost versus benefit, the better. So don't assume that money is the ultimate.
The ultimate value.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And money runs out a lot quicker than you think. and money doesn't raise kids. It doesn't give them emotional resources. It doesn't give them secure attachment. Any of that.
Yes, money puts food on the table. We respect that.
That's right. Right. So you got to balance out, you know, those conflicting agendas.
Yeah.
You have to. Okay, if food on the table is, you know, there's a serious threat of not having food on the table.
Yeah, then it may be a smart thing to do to actually marry a man who has money because you can't survive.
Exactly.
Otherwise.
But for the most part, there's so much more to value than just money and social status. So much more.
Yeah.
So much more. And think about the next generation and the next generation. They will perhaps appreciate you more if you gave them more resources and more emotional resources than if you just gave them more money.
That's right. And when I say it may be smart if you're like living on the streets and you have no money, when I say it may be smart to marry a man with money, I mean in the short term. So, okay, so you've got a guy who can help you put food on the table and make you feel comfortable in that you can carry and breastfeed a child. Okay, well, you do all that and maybe you get 5 years down the track and you realize, well, that's fulfilled, but I didn't quite realize that he's not actually that emotionally there for us. He's always awake. He doesn't value us. He doesn't put in energy into the kids. And then you'll realize that you've got another problem to solve. So, yeah, I would consider the long term as well, if, you know, the long-term ramifications of such a choice as well, if possible.
Yeah. Okay. Liz, thanks for the conversation. Question, what should I do when I found out that he is emotionally unable. Now, I'm not sure what you mean by that, Liz. Emotionally unable.
Like emotionally inept, emotionally
Distant.
bankrupt.
In my case, he is
Stunted.
aware of and said he will look for help, but it's been a year and nothing yet. At the end of the day, it's very difficult for people to, I think, get help. They either help themselves or you don't. It's not something that other people can give you. You either have to be willing enough to go through it, to give yourself more emotional resources, or you don't. People can't just give that to you. Now, I don't know what you mean by emotionally unable, but at the end of the day, if he is emotionally bankrupt, if his emotional resources are just gone, then it will take him doing that for himself. He needs to rebuild that himself.
Yeah.
It's not easy to just give it to him.
As a man, a lot of men won't create for themselves the resources to step up and do better emotionally unless and until they feel somebody, a woman or their child, needing them. And so without that push, there'll never be a reason to get out of that comfort zone. So maybe there's a way that you could express the truth of where you actually are emotionally, so that he can feel more of your emotions viscerally, that he can draw from that. Maybe that's an option. But yeah, it's hard to answer the question when I'm not quite sure what emotionally unable, what that means.
We'll answer that. We'll answer the general question of how do you get a man to open up if they're emotionally unavailable. We'll answer that in a second. How's that?
You can
Because
answer it now.
there is a question here. Jacqueline, going back to our reframing, how can we help men be more emotionally available to us? Besides being more vulnerable, how can we help him be more emotionally available to us? We can address that. That's a very general question. Did you want to address anything else before? Because that's it's a general question in terms of we can give you guidelines and we can give you frameworks to help you do that.
Yeah, I think there is one thing I want to address.
Yep.
I think the signs of an emotionally unavailable man. We won't go through them. I've already pre-written an article for this topic. I've got signs. You can read that when I send it out. If you're on my email list, you'll get that article in the next 48 hours probably. So you can read the signs there. But we were talking before, I think there is one specific sign that I would like to mention, and it ties into something else as well. And that is that an emotionally unavailable man will be somewhat more avoidant. So if you need or want something from him, whether it be a movie night on the couch or a trip to the local, I don't know what in America is Bunnings. What's the equivalent of Bunnings?
Hardware store.
A trip to the hardware store to buy a doorknob for your house. Where was I going with this? I forgot. Oh yeah. So you say he can't. Oh my god, I completely forgot. What it's pregnancy brain.
Yeah.
Oh, avoidant. Okay, yes. So if he can't meet you and do those things for you and be there for you, that's a sign that he's emotionally unavailable. Now, the avoidance factor is an interesting topic because a lot of women state that if a man is emotionally unavailable, it means that he has avoidant attachment style. And avoidant attachment style actually comes under the umbrella of insecure attachment styles. So
it's a very different framework.
It's about attachment. And so if you're early on with a man, you're not really going to know if he has an insecure attachment style.
Yeah.
You're just not going to know. So we can't confuse him avoiding commitment and avoiding being with you emotionally with no sex. We can't take that to mean he has an avoidant attachment style.
Very different
All
things.
we can do is work with this avoidance that you see, that he can't be there for you, and either you express how it makes you feel or you feel into how it makes you feel, and you work from there. It's an expression, I don't know how to describe
Look,
it exactly.
as a man,
you do something, he responds or not, kind of.
As a man, if a woman was to want something, or I pick up that she wants something from me, yeah, I would be avoidant too. Absolutely.
But even me though?
No, not you. But generally speaking, if I was to speak to someone and I pick up the sense that, oh, she's asking me a few too many questions for the context, or something's happening that she wants resources from me, or she wants, whatever it is.
You'll feel it instantly.
Yeah, I would feel it, and I would be instantly more avoidant.
Yeah, because it's like the pullback response to the value extraction.
Exactly.
And same like with, sorry.
And that doesn't mean that I have avoidant attachment patterns. I just don't want to give my resources
Yeah.
just indiscriminately.
Yeah.
And if I was a single man, I would want to choose, I would choose intelligently who to add that resources to, or who to invest in, or who to spend my time with. Because ultimately, most people out there, they're going to be value extractors, value suckers. And you want to stay, I mean, any smart person, women included, you would know when a man is there to just extract value, so you would stay away from him.
That's right.
So
And
it's not a sign of avoidant attachment patterns. Rather, you're just avoiding the people who try to take value from you.
and it's a perfectly reasonable and reciprocal response.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you were out at a club and some guy comes up to you and is like, dancing to you or trying to grab you, kind of thing, your response is to pull back. It's like, it feels like it's avoidant or she's frigid, but it's just the reciprocal response. So, yes, not avoidant attachment styles, but rather reciprocal response. It's a response.
It's a very different thing, different framework. Don't confuse the two.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, you want to say? Go ahead.
No, you say something.
Well, I was going to talk about ultimately in terms of getting them to become more available to you emotionally. It comes down to the amount of value you are able to add to him. Period. That is the equation. That is it.
Yeah, and he won't have that pullback response as much if he didn't feel that value-taking intention.
That's right. So if you add so much value, then it's okay if you ask for something in return. It doesn't feel like you're extracting value because there is that sense of she gave value first. That's why we always teach you lead with value. You lead with value, and you're going to inspire the best in men. You're going to inspire. You're going to attract better men into your life when you lead with value. Not only that, you'll be able to see and test and notice when men aren't stepping up that, oh, that's a sign. You may want to weed them out. You may want to say, hey, that was your chance. That was your test. Sorry, you failed. And move on. Because as a woman, I think one of the biggest skills you need is the ability to test and weed them out.
Yeah.
Because there are so many men out there who will just waste your time, and you just get strung along thinking that was going to lead to something. Well, no, it doesn't just work that way.
Yeah.
You have to test. You have to weed them out.
Correct.
You have, as women, you have a much tighter timeline.
Yes.
Men don't have that.
Yep.
As a man, okay, I am, how old am I?
Do you really want to tell them?
Okay, no. As a man, and right now, in this stage of life, if I didn't have kids, I'll go, okay, it'll come at some stage. My body doesn't, cannot bear kids. So
let's put it this way. If you were the woman's equivalent age,
I'll probably freak out if I was single.
If you wanted children.
If I wanted children.
Yes.
But as a man, it's okay. I'm sure the kids will come at some stage. There is no urgency whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's a very different reality. And I'm not intuitively aware of my ability to produce kids because I don't have a uterus.
Yeah.
So that timeline is very different. And I was saying originally that it's important for you to test as a woman, to test their intent, to test, who they are, instead of just getting strung along.
And this is why I made my program Becoming His One and Only. And in the platinum version of that program, we give 4 tests. I think it's 4 or is it 5?
Correct, 4.
I give 4 tests for you to see how far a man is willing to come with you emotionally and to see how committed he currently is. They are 4 tests designed specifically for you to use so that you can basically get all the information you need about where the relationship is at. Yes, so it's almost been an hour.
How long has it been? It has been, oh, you're right, almost an hour.
Yeah.
I think we should wrap that up. I think we've addressed a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
At the end of the
I
day...
don't want to overwhelm you. I think a lot of the basic stuff has been covered.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Interrupting you.
Oh, we have so much to say.
So, but I've got, yes, again, a new article on this, Emotionally Unavailable Men. There's a lot there as well. So you can read through that. I'll send that out to my email newsletter list. I'll link to it on my Facebook page, the Feminine Woman Facebook page, and in our Facebook group. So you can read that.
At the end of the day, add value, lead with value. When a man says he doesn't want a relationship, he really just is saying he doesn't want a relationship with you. Now that hurts, I get it, but that is...
It's not meant to hurt. It's not intended to hurt. It's meant to be a freeing frame of mind that you can kind of move towards.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think we all need to grow. We all need to learn to be better, and know that inherently you are enough. But what you need is the skill of communicating, testing to see who they are, to be able to create that connection, the emotional connection, emotional attraction. That's what's important. And if you don't focus on those things, then you can be sidetracked by things that don't really matter.
Yeah, and as a woman, it's so easy to not know what to do. It's like anything in life. If you want to learn a certain skill, you have to be willing to put in the effort to learn and to, learn along the way. But also, where was I going with this? What was I saying? Again,
Learn along.
my brain has.
Well, she's going to retire soon. We're going to retire her.
My brain has retired. Skills, learning a skill.
Of connecting?
Learning the skill of connecting. Yes, that's what I was going to say. Don't expect yourself to actually know immediately. This is not about your worth.
No, not at all.
When David's saying that
he doesn't want a relationship with you,
it's meant to be a call to action for you to understand that there's more that you need to learn. It's the same as, like, for example, I overcooked my steak. It tasted terrible. The truth is that I wasn't attuned with the steak. I didn't cook it properly. I didn't do the right thing by the steak, and that's okay. You just learn as you go along. Well, none of this is taught when we go to school. We're taught a bunch of other useless stuff that we tend to forget easily, but we're not taught any of this, how to navigate relationships. So yes, it is a process of navigation, and it's a process of going through those painful truths and receiving the painful truths and knowing that it's not about your worth, but it's okay to adopt another mindset.
Absolutely. And go out there and test them. The earlier you are able to suss out who the person is, who the man is, the more choices you have, the more control you have in that situation, and the less emotionally invested you'll be in that situation. Because as women, you tend to attach yourself early. That's a good thing. However, it can be you can get yourself stuck in situations where it doesn't serve you anymore because you didn't do the right testing to start with.
Yeah. So
you got to test. You got to figure it out. You got to just throw them little pebbles to see who they are deep down inside. Besides of everything that they speak about, besides of who they say they are, you want to see who they are deep down inside.
Did we want to leave a link to any of these attraction pebbles or boo below? Boo as in becoming his one and only?
Well, look, guys, chances are you're on our email list. I'm sure you've probably got those links anyway. We'll try and add them in the comments below. But, that's why we created our programs. It's for you to become a woman who is able to establish connection, establish attraction, who is able to test and know and stay attuned to the situation, to the interactions, to the man that you're speaking to, and then know what to do at the same time. That ultimately, I think, is the key here.
Yeah. Okay. Should we leave it at that?
I think we should leave it at that.
Thank you so much, guys, for being
joining
with us.
us.
We enjoy it, and we hope you got something from this
Yeah.
live. I apologize for my pregnancy brain. It's getting bad now. It's starting to get bad now.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do more of these in the future.
Yeah. Take care, and we'll speak to you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.